Hey, what is going on, guys? DK. Back at you with another video here for a final look at the Week 3 NFL main slate on Draftkings. But before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I make daily videos as well as live stream for NBA and NFL slates on Draftkings. I'm going to be live breaking down the NFL main slate Sunday morning, as well as live for the Sunday night football show on slate, as well as the Monday night football show on slate. We'll go over my lineup from the Thursday night slate in my Sunday night video. Unfortunately, Christian McCaffrey got injured. I actually talked about that a bit. I was like, the only way he feels is he gets injured. So that really sucked. But if you guys are unable to watch these YouTube videos, they're also up on Apple Podcasts. I will link down below. It's called the DKDFS Show. And if you're interested in signing up for premium content, I offer that on patreon.com. NFL Package covers all the show on slates as well as the main slate. And I do want to thank today's sponsor, PrizePicks. So again, if you guys are not familiar with PrizePicks, two different ways you can play for NFL. The first way is you take over, under, and straight up fantasy points. So right now there's probably at least 100 or so players posted, probably more throughout the weekend, where again, you just go over like Antonio Gibson, 14 fantasy points. Do you like the under, do you like the over? Pretty simple. Or you can go over to single stat, where you can go to passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions, passing TDs, rushing TDs. Reception TDs, passing completions, interceptions, a lot of different options. You can also mix and match sports. So the sports are up here at the top. Yeah, I like it, guys. It's a nice change of pace because, again, you're not playing against anyone. You're just playing against house. So, again, try it out if you guys want to try it out. Sign up using the code DKDFS. DKDFS, all one word. I will have a link in the description below. You get a 100% match up to $100. And finally, I want to thank you guys again for your continued support on this YouTube channel. So close in on the 10,000 subscriber mark. If you guys could, leave a like button on the video. Let's try to aim for 100 in this one. Again, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos and you don't go live. All right, so let's get into this video, guys. So final look, we're going to be talking about some injuries, kind of where players hit effects, and then talk some lower owned plays, possibly maybe some stacks as well. So we'll start off with quarterback, and let's go down to a value play that is going to be pretty popular in cash games and even GPPs too. That's going to be Justin Fields. So he's 5.2K. The reason he's going to be popular here, obviously, is Andy Dalton is out. And the positive here with Justin Fields is the rushing upside, right? He's a guy that can probably go get you 50, 60, 70 yards on the ground. And, the matchup against Cincinnati, or the matchup I should say against Cleveland, not the best, but not the worst either. And he's cheap enough where it's like he really doesn't need a ton to pay off that salary, right? If he gets you a floor of like 50 yards on the ground, doesn't need much at the salary. So that's why I think he's going to be pretty popular. Now, obviously, you don't have to play him because, again, he's going to get a decent amount of ownership. If you don't spend down, there's – I talked about this in my earlier video, but like – it seems the last year or so, I've been spending up way more at quarterback. Again, like back in the day, you always like spend down at like quarterback, and a lot of the time spent down at tight end. Now it feels like the opposite because you just have stud quarterbacks that have way more upside than the rest of the field, and that's really like the top four guys. Like Kyler Murray, 8.3. I mean, he's been under-owned the first couple weeks, right? I got him at like 6% last slate. Now the one concern, as I mentioned in the early video, was Jacksonville. Not a great team, obviously. So is there a chance this game blows out? Yeah. But like either way, like Arizona's not really a team that like if they get off to like a big lead, they're just gonna like ground and pound it. They spread it out 4 wide a lot. So like Kyler, you could argue, is almost blowout proof. Again, he's got the rushing upside. Stacking wise for Kyler Murray, you have any of the top 4 wide receivers. Rondale Moore had a breakout week last week. The snaps doubled for him. I think he's going to be a good season-long play. His price should jump up on DraftKings, but that's a guy that has a lot of upside. Obviously, Hopkins, monitor that injury, and you have Kirk, A.J. Green on the cheaper side. So, like, a lot of stacking opportunities there with Arizona. The Kansas City stack just always goes under-owned. Talked about that week 1 a lot, how I was like, hey, no one's going to do the Kansas City stack, and that was the optimal stack. And once again, I feel like no one's going to play the Kansas City stack because it's expensive, right? You have Hill, you have Travis Kelce. There's enough value to make that work. You also you don't have to play both studs. Right? You have a guy like McCole Hardman, I think is a viable value play too. So like 8.2K, once again, I'm going to repeat myself, this Chiefs stack is going to go overlooked because people always overthink it. So, like, I think the Chiefs stack's one of the best stacks on this slate. Now, would I stack Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Lamar Jackson's usually a guy I will go play it as a naked quarterback, meaning like you don't have to pair him with one of his wide receivers, because the rushing upside is really why you're playing Lamar, right? Now, I don't think Lamar's going to be that popular either. Matchup against Detroit, this is one where the blowout risk is definitely in play, right? Baltimore gets off to maybe a couple touchdown lead in the second half. You could see the ground and pound a little bit more, but again, the reason you're playing Lamar Jackson obviously is that rushing upside, and then Russell Wilson too. Great, like this game has shootout potential written all over it. Two bad defenses going up against each other. Two offenses that can definitely move the ball. You have condensed target shares on both sides of the ball, right? Russell Wilson, you have Lockett, Metcalf. It's been Lockett the first couple weeks. That doesn't mean it's going to be Lockett again. Then the Minnesota side, the top three wide receivers, with KJ Osborne being, we'll get to him. He was a guy I really liked last week. Once again, another decent value play. So, like, really, again, the top four quarterbacks I like to, or the top three of the top four I like to stacking. Would I go to anyone in the mid-range here? Again, I mentioned a couple guys. I don't really think much has changed here. Stafford is still a guy that is viable. Tampa Bay struggles a little bit against the passes. Is projected to be a higher scoring game. Obviously, you have Cooper Kupp you can stack him with. I think he's going to be popular. Robert Woods as a pivot off Cooper Kupp, I think does make a little bit of sense in GPPs, right? He's going to be basically unowned. And last guy I mentioned is Daniel Jones. And do I think Daniel Jones is going to average 95 yards on the ground? No. But he's a guy that at least does have that rushing up. So this game's kind of sneaky, I think. The total is not super high. It's only about 47.5, but it's two bad defenses going up against each other. So this game I could see shooting out. I don't think it's going to get a ton of ownership. Plus Jones, again, got a little bit of rushing upside. It's a great matchup. So that's where I'm looking for quarterbacks, guys. Talked about some stacks. Again, Fields is going to get a good amount of ownership. You can definitely look elsewhere in GPPs. Moving on to running backs. So, as you guys know, Derrick Henry, he's going to break the slate a couple times a year. Broke it last week with basically no one playing him. Now the ownership's going to jump way up. Talked about this on the slate. Like, I don't trust these targets. I need to see that more consistently. I think it's kind of an outlier with 4 and 6 targets, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a scary fade. Derrick Henry's a scary fade every single week because he can go get you 40, 50 fantasy points. And when he's going to get a decent amount of ownership, which I think he will this slate, it's scary, right? Because like you don't have them, and you see Derrick Henry break a long one, just call it a day. Now, Dalvin Cook, this is actually something to monitor here, right? He hasn't practiced last couple of days with that ankle injury, and he got banged up last week. So if he does end up missing, we have Madison that becomes viable. Now, Madison, for some reason, is priced at $6K. I don't know if they were like predicting this Dalvin Cook injury or what, but either way, like if Cook can't go, I think Madison still becomes a good play because Minnesota, they kind of like using a bell cow back. And if Cook is out, I think Madison would kind of become that bell cow back. He had a couple big games when Dalvin Cook was out last year. He's decent receiving back too. So like he could become a viable play there. Again, obviously if Dalvin Cook can't go. Not super interested in Kamara. He's kind of been a letdown so far. And it's a bad matchup there against New England. Let's see. I think Eckler will get a decent amount of ownership. We talked about that. Obviously the PPR upside. Now, Saquon Barkley, I do want to go over this again because if he's good to go, I think he's going to be one of the more popular plays. Only 6'5". The thing you have to worry about, obviously, is the injury. He missed a practice on Wednesday and then practice limited on Thursday. So just monitor this one because the snaps did go way up for him in week 2. But if he is dealing, if like this is actually an issue, then we're going to have to reconsider Saquon. So yeah, I think a guy you could look to as a pivot off Saquon, right below him, Chris Carson. Still Seattle's bell cow back. I don't think he's going to get as much ownership this week. He didn't have any targets, but again, higher total game, and he's a guy they'll look to in the red zone. Obviously, get red zone touches, had 2 touchdowns. So I think Carson makes for a pretty decent play in the mid-range. I don't think he's going to be super popular. Again, we want over Madison with potential for Dalvin Cook. I talked about the Josh Jacobs injury. Don't expect him to play. So if you go to, let's go to Las Vegas. Kenyon Drake at 5.5. Would have wished he was cheaper, right? Because they're still going to have Peyton Barber for some reason carries. But yeah, Drake is definitely the PPR back there in that split. Let's see. Henderson's another injury situation to monitor here. Didn't practice Thursday. They expect him to play. But again, if he can't go, then a guy like Sony Michel becomes viable. Sony Michel only 4.9K. But if Henderson goes, and he has played a majority of the snaps in each of the first couple games. DeAndre Swift, a little bit banged up. They said they want to give him more opportunity in the passing game. Now, the downside of Swift, obviously, is you have Jamal Williams splitting touches with him, right? But, 11 and 5 targets through 2 games is pretty good. And the Lions as a team, they're going to be playing from behind almost every single game. They're not a great team, which is actually good for a guy like DeAndre Swift. Weird saying that about a running back, how you kind of want him to play from behind, but that's actually the case for Swift because he gets a majority of his work done through the air. So, Swift goes. I don't mind him as a GPP play. Edmonds is finally priced up. He's been a value I've talked about the first couple weeks. And then we got to go over it again because this is another one that's going to come down to ownership, right? What are we going to do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Now, should he be 4.8K now? He's still playing a majority of the snaps of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he still has a decent amount of upside. I think this is 2 outliers in kind of a bad way for him. Obviously, he had that bad fumble in week 2, but I do think he bounces back in a high total game. He is involved in the pass game, and now you're getting a really big discount on him. So another one's kind of going to come down to ownership, but I do think he still makes for one of the better values on the board. At wide receivers position, so let's talk about some injuries here. Again, Hopkins didn't participate on Thursday's practice, so we'll go over to Arizona because they like running 4 wide receiver sets. And if Hopkins can't go, then we have 3 guys here in Green, Moore, and Christian Kirk that all get a pretty significant boost. Because again, Hopkins is the clear alpha in this offense. If he's out, that's a lot of targets to go around. So monitor that one, obviously, because that can make those Arizona receivers look a lot better. Let's see, Deontay Johnson is currently questionable. I don't think he plays, non-participant. So if he can't go, that's going to open up some value here for Pittsburgh. So let's go over to Pittsburgh, look at wide receiver. And James Washington becomes a viable value play. He's right now in the number 4 in the depth chart. Again, if Deontay can't go, Washington's going to move into that number 3 slot and will play a majority of the game because the Steelers like running 3 wide receiver sets. So Washington then becomes a viable value play. We're going to talk about this about a lot of receivers because there's a lot of guys that are out or questionable. Let's see. So let's go down to, again, OBJ. Expect him to play, but there's no Jarvis Landry. Would I roll the dice in OBJ in the first game back? It's fine for tournaments, but it's not something I feel amazing about. Now, Antonio Brown. Here's another piece of injury news that is pretty significant because that opens up value here for Tampa Bay. Let's go over to Tampa Bay. Obviously, Mike Evans and Godwin are going to be the top 2 wide receivers, but then we have value in a guy like Scotty Miller. 3.1K. Probably plays, a decent amount there in the slot. He was the slot wide receiver last year before Antonio Brown joined. So there's more value at wide receiver. All right, let's go back. Let's keep scrolling because there's still more to go over here. Jamison Crowder, only 4.5K. Didn't practice again. One guy that really hasn't been played at all is Braxton Berrios. 7 targets. 11 targets through 2 games. Again, if Crowder's out, he's going to be the slot wide receiver. And with the Jets struggling to move the ball, they've been looking more to the slot guy. So Braxton Berrios then becomes a pretty solid value play. Let's see. I think there's even a few more to go over down here. Let's see. So I expect Darnell Mooney to go. Russell Gage. All right, let's go over to Atlanta. I mentioned that game as a sneaky game stack. I think that over could definitely hit with 2 bad defenses. But yeah, if Russell Gage can't go, then with a guy like Lamine Zaccheaus, it becomes viable. Had 2 catches and 4 targets. Playing time would go way up, you would assume, if Gage is unavailable. So there's really a lot of questions. This week 3 is like the week of a lot of guys that we'll have to monitor for news, for injury news, really. Let's see. I think that was basically it. I talked about the Lions cheap wide receiver right with Cephas. He seems to be the clear number 1 guy. We talked about Berrios' potential value. One of a Hardman. Also, again, I want to talk about KJ Osborne one more time because we got him in super low ownership last week. It's not going to happen this week, but he's still too cheap, right? He's a slot wide receiver that's going to play majority of the game. I just want to reiterate that, right? Minnesota is not the same team as last year. They're not running 2 tight end sets like they did last year, right? Last year, they ran 2 tight end sets a majority of the game. They barely ran 3 wide receiver sets. Well, there's no more. Irv Smith is injured, and there's no more Kyle Rudolph. So they're running a majority of 3 wide receiver sets with KJ Osborne in the slot. He's had 9 and 6 targets. At this price point, doesn't need a ton. So obviously, he's the guy that I like a good amount there at receiver. And then tight end, I want to repeat that this year, I've just been looking to spend up more at tight end. Like the top, 5, 6 guys just have way more upside than, these punt play tight ends. Now, are the punt play tight ends out of play? No. But for me, I'm not really looking to punt tight end. I'm looking to spend up. So, again, Kelsey's basically wide receiver 1. Can't go wrong with that. High total game. Definitely stackable. Obviously, we went over that. Hawkinson, I think, is going to get a good amount of ownership, but it's for good reason, right? 9 targets and 11 targets through 2. So he's averaging 10 targets a game. Same thing I said about Swift. The Lions are going to be playing from behind almost every single game this year. That's a good thing for the pass catchers. So Hawkinson, I think, gets a good amount of ownership. But again, for good reason. I'm fine with Mark Andrews, right? He is kind of the safety blanket for Lamar Jackson, a red zone threat. And then Kyle Pitts, as I mentioned in the earlier set video too, he's lining up a majority of his snaps in the slot. So he's basically like a wide receiver at 4'9", big body, a guy that can look to in the red zone. We haven't seen a breakout game yet from Kyle Pitts, but we're going to get one very soon. Whether it be this week, maybe next week, I don't know, but we're going to see a pretty big game from Kyle Pitts soon. And I mentioned there's just not much cheap tight ends that I would look to on this one. I just don't think it's worth it. I really want to spend up, probably go above 4K range and above. So Higbee, I'll repeat it one more time. He played 100% of snaps again. So 2 straight weeks, he's been out there the entire time. Am I worried about 1 catch last week? No, not at all. Because he's going to play the entire game. This is one of the highest over/under games of the week. And the Rams want to air it out. So Higbee, I think, once again, a decent value play if you consider him that for tight end. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the video today. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I would really appreciate if you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos and when I'm live. Again, make sure to check out the live streams on Sunday. So before lock, I'll be live on YouTube. And then Sunday Night Football before lock, I will also be live. So 2 live streams coming up on Sunday. Make sure to check it out. Q&A. Answer any questions you guys have. Thanks again. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all on Sunday in the live streams.